get some fresh air. If you notice they're struggling with the inattention. So those are very, very important.
Should be fine.
The other thing is we must be aware how much they can handle. So for example, if you go in and you're giving a lesson to a 4-year-old and you're spending an hour, well, that's not going to work because the brain is not developed to be able to stay for that long. So do you know how many, a 4-year-old, do you know how long their attention span is? A 4-year-old, like how long the lesson can be for someone who's 4? 8 to 12 minutes, yes. So 8 to 12 minutes should be the lesson because that's all their brain can handle for that age group. And if you're trying to overwhelm them, then you're actually doing more harm than good. And so maybe the lesson can be that long, and then the rest can be interactive time, or going outside, or asking about the child, how they're doing, giving them praise, encouragement. Those are things that you can do to help. It's not just the lesson that we need to be focused on. And then of course, if you know that there's someone who's struggling, you can have this child even help you. Come sit close to me. Can you go get me this? How can, ask him to help you with advice on certain topics, to help him get more engaged with you. That can also help as well. So strategies that you can use: give clear one-step instructions, teach students to check in with themselves, tell them if you're losing focus, ask yourself, am I losing focus? What's distracting me? So they become more aware of when they're losing focus. Incorporating movement during the lesson. Maybe if you notice they're not focused, have them get up and do some stretches, or talk for a little bit, give them a 2-minute break before you continue. Set a timer for work sessions. Give them stuff they can fidget with, you know, the things that they can roll or play with. Use a lot of visual reminders. Provide flexible seating options. Play games that boost their attention span. Use interests that they like. So if I know someone likes Liverpool, you can put a video of, you know, Mo Salah playing, and then that will help, because you know that that's what this child likes. That's what interests him the most. So if you show them that, so you should, as a servant, start to connect with them and know what they like, what can I use in my lesson to improve their attention span. There are some other disorders that I'll talk to you about briefly, like separation anxiety, social anxiety, mutism. Those are some other psychological disorders that we may see in the service. Usually separation anxiety you'll find in the very young group, and that's normal up to 18 years of age. Obviously when their parent leave the room, they start to cry, they have a lot of fear and anxiety from being separated from this individual that is attached to them. They get a lot of distress anticipating or experiencing separation from home or from major attachment figures. They worry that this person might not come back. They fear that something bad might happen to them, like a disaster or car accident. And so you as a servant, if you have that group, you need to provide a lot of reassurance, you know, and recognize that it's okay. It's okay for them to cry. Eventually they will grow out of it, but you know that this is temporary. And try to distract them and reassure them. Sometimes these people also refuse to sleep away from home or go to sleep without being close to that attachment figure. They have a lot of nightmares, you know, when they're separated, they can't sleep by themselves. And sometimes they start having physical complaints, like my stomach hurts, I have headaches, my shoulder hurts. They don't actually have this, it's their brain, this is how their brain deals with this emotional trauma that they're going through when they're separated from a caregiver. Social anxiety, you might see this everywhere in all ages. And this is usually people who have fear or anxiety about one or more social situations. So these people are always thinking, I'm being watched, I'm being judged, I'm being ridiculed, and they struggle because they have so much anxiety that they don't want to come to church or go to Sunday school because they always have this fear of being watched. And that's why if you ask them to read, this can provoke their anxiety very, very high. So again, you as servants, we need to know who are these kids and what can I do to help them? I can't overwhelm them, but I also want them to be engaged. And so you have to use your judgment. How much, what can I do to help improve this anxiety? Let me give you an example. You have a child who's very, very anxious. You want to help this anxiety. How about you ask him to give out the candy? That will help reduce his anxiety. One, because when he gives out candy, most people are happy to get the candy, so they're going to smile in his face. So that will boost up his self-esteem. And at the same time, you're helping him get rid of this anxiety. He's going to realize, wait a second, I'm not being judged here. People like me. I'm not being ridiculed. So these are different ways as a servant, the things that you can do to help these children with this type of anxiety. And usually this anxiety is way out of proportion to the actual threats. So this is another one, autism spectrum disorder. You might see, we know autism is on a spectrum, so there's various levels of autism. Usually people with autism have a lot of problems in their social skills, social and emotional reciprocity. So when you smile in their face, they might not smile back at you. They might be completely distracted by other things while you talk to them. They do not know how to read body language. They don't know how to, most of us communicate using our body language. These kids don't understand that. They don't know that language. So it can be very, very difficult. They don't know how to have normal back and forth conversation. Like if you ask them, hi, how are you today? They're just somewhere else. They're not looking at you, they don't care, they're not interested. They have problems in nonverbal communication. Obviously, some people with autism, it can be very severe to where they're completely nonverbal and completely dependent on the caregiver. And sometimes they're very intelligent human beings. And they might have something very specific that they really, really like and they're very interested. You might find them like fascinated by rocks. And all they want to do is talk about rocks. And once you know that that's their interest, now you can connect with this child because you know what their interest is, or dinosaurs, or whatever it may be, whatever their interest is. Obviously, in the severe cases, they may have stereotypic repetitive movements with their hands. This is more of the severe autism. They usually like the sameness. They don't do very well with flexibility. So they want something to happen at the same time. They want to go to church in the same route to the church. If you tell them, I'm going to pick you up at 2:45 and you come at 2:46, you can't do that. To them, there isn't that flexibility. And you need to understand who these children are and also accommodate for their needs. And this is the spectrum from low to high functioning. Usually we do something called applied behavioral analysis. This is the way we treat kids with autism, which is we try to encourage the desired behaviors and discourage the undesired behaviors. And we'll talk about reinforcement in a little bit. What can we do to improve a behavior and decrease? So for example, here in this meeting, if Abuna wants more of you guys to come, he can add an enforcer to increase the behavior. So bringing food. So bringing food will increase the attendance. So this is a form of positive reinforcement. So this is the type of behavioral modifications that you can use with this group to help improve their skills and continue doing the desired activities. So you want them to talk about their interests and expand opportunities for communicating with them. You want to provide simple descriptions of what to expect in social situations, so help them understand what to expect. And also, they're very concrete. So when you give them an abstraction, like don't judge a book by its cover, they don't understand that. Their brain doesn't understand abstraction. Or, let's do this, it'll hit two birds with one stone. Their brain cannot process these things. So you have to be aware of that. Or if you tell them I have butterflies in my stomach, they'll think you're literally saying I have butterflies in my stomach. That's the way their brain works. So people with high-functioning autism, usually they're anxious, they're very sensitive to criticism. So if you tell them you're not good at something, they take that very hard. They're peculiar or odd. They're different. They're very easily distressed. They're very literal. Sometimes they're very gifted individuals. and they have extreme difficulty understanding other people's perspective. They don't know how to put other people in their own shoes. So I can't tell how, if you tell them I'm sad, they don't know what that means. Or I'm tired, they cannot relate to you. They're very resistant to change, and they're socially challenged. Okay, oppositional defiant disorder. This is another disorder that we see. It's characterized by a pattern of negative, defiant, disobedient, and hostile behavior. And usually it occurs for 6 months, and we see 4 of those symptoms, 4 out of the 8. They often lose their temper very quickly. They argue a lot with adults. They're very defiant. They actively defy rules. If you tell them go here, they go the other way. They try to annoy other people in the class. They blame others for mistakes. They can be touchy, easily annoyed. They become angry, resentful, and spiteful and vindictive. So these are the people with oppositional defiant disorder. For someone who's less than 5 years of age, these symptoms should occur, or we're saying 4 of the 8 symptoms should occur for at least 6 months, almost on a daily basis. So if you have a child who's under the age of 5 and is doing this almost on a daily basis, and it's 4 of the 8, they would qualify for having oppositional defiant disorder. Obviously, if they're older than 5, then the behavior can typically occur once or twice a week for at least 6 months. You might not see it every single day. And the disturbance in the behavior is associated with distress in his or her immediate social context, the family, the peer, the work colleagues. So a lot of these people, of course, struggle with school. They get a lot of complaints from school, at home. He's not listening to me. He doesn't obey authority. He doesn't care if it's a principal talking to him. It doesn't really matter. And 40% of these people with ODD have ADHD as well. So you'll see those two very common together, ADHD and ODD. And again, it's believed that genetics plays a role, as well as environment. And there's few biological causes which can cause oppositional defiant disorder. This could be problems with the parenting, with the house itself. There's a lack of supervision with these kids. Sometimes there's very inconsistent and harsh discipline. So sometimes they might do something a little bad and they get beat. Sometimes they do bad and they don't get any punishment at all. So the very inconsistent environment can cause someone to develop oppositional defiant disorder. Also, if they're abused in the house, or there's neglect, or their basic needs is not met, that can increase the risk of oppositional disorder as well. In a child's natural personality is called temperament. Temperament is basically the way someone manages their emotions. So everyone has different temperaments. So if someone cuts us off while we're driving, the way each of us will respond is very different than someone else. Some people might overly react. Some people don't get bothered at all. And so it just varies. That is the temperament of the child, is the way they regulate and react to emotions. Obviously, we talked about the neglect and the inconsistent discipline and other family issues. If there's a problem with the parents, an unstable relationship, or there's substance problems or other mental health condition that can increase problems with ODD, and of course the environment. So if this person's defiance is causing them to get more attention, then that might increase that type of behavior, because they recognize when I'm bad, this is the only way I get attention from you. If I'm going to be bad, so I can get that attention. So the most important thing is consistency. So if a child does, imagine this child, they're so confused that sometimes they do something wrong, and the parent might give them ice cream to get them to be quiet or be better. And another time they do something wrong, and then they're grounded for a week. So there's a lot of confusion in the brain with the way they're disciplined. And maybe it's different at home, at school. Maybe he gets punished for screaming, and at home the screaming is what gives him what he wants. But again, there's inconsistency and confusion. This can also increase the risk of ODD. So how do you deal with this child? So dealing with a child like this requires a lot of consistency in the consequences with a clear message that I love you. You want to say I love you all the time. Love has nothing to do with punishment or with natural consequences. These are two separate issues. It's more like I want you to do the right thing because it's good for you, and I'm going to support you and guide you, but at the same time, I'm not going to give you a free pass, and it does not mean that I don't love you as well. So this is the message you as servants want to provide. I love you no matter what, but I want you to make the right decision to avoid natural consequences that come with it. And this means I'm not going to give you extra privileges, and this means I'm also going to enforce the rules that are upon all of us. The other thing is we want to give them a lot of self-confidence, so raise their self-esteem. Do not send them a message, again, that they're unloved or unwanted or inferior, and make sure they know that they're very unique human beings and that they are worthy, and that the being worthy or valuable is not by achievements or by what they have. It is because they are the child of our Lord Jesus Christ, and so they have the image of God. They are a temple of the Holy Spirit, and that's why they are valuable. And we can make them understand that. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son for you, so that you could have everlasting life. So if he did that for you, that shows you what your worth is or what your value is. And love is the true source of distinction. You must ensure that they understand that they are loved regardless of what happens or of the circumstances. So give them time, give them attention, but please do not deprive them of consequences as well. So give them encouragement, and this will give them security and self-confidence. And a child's need for encouragement exceeds his need for food. Give them a smile, a hug, rejoice in their achievements when they do something well, and let them vent. If they're struggling with something, let them open up and say what they're upset about. Well, you also have to use your judgment. So maybe I can provide these consequences outside of the setting of the classroom. Or maybe I can have another servant help in this case and take this child out so that he's not punished in front of everybody. And make sure that this rule applies to everyone in the class. It's not just to you.
Okay, can it be delayed? Meaning, like, okay, you know that it's going to be consequences right now. Let's talk about it later, or let's talk about it. What is it not effective if it's not done immediately?
No, that's fine. If it's something that's delayed, that's fine. As long as he knows from the beginning that if you do this, this equals this. You know, if you have a child at home, they want to go to a birthday party, you tell them you can't go to the birthday party unless you clean your room. And that's it. So however long it takes when they do it, then they can go to the birthday party. Or tomorrow you're not going, so it can be delayed. Tomorrow you're not getting this. And then tomorrow you have to stick by what you said. Tomorrow you're not getting this. And we'll talk about the positive reinforcement. I don't know if you've heard of this before. Positive reinforcement, negative reinforcement, positive punishment, negative punishment. I'll make it very simple for you. Reinforcement meaning increasing the behavior. Punishment is you want to reduce the behavior. So this is different ways that we can use to either increase or decrease a behavior, whether it's good or bad. So if you want to, positive reinforcement, you're adding something to improve the behavior. So adding food to a meeting increases attendance. So this is the positive reinforcer with the positive behavior. Negative is you're increasing the behavior by removing something. So for example, as a mom, you nag your child. So your child does what you need to stop the nagging. So that's negative reinforcement. Positive punishment is you're adding something to stop a behavior. Like you're taking a toy from someone who misbehaved because you're Positive punishment. You're adding something to reduce the behavior. Yes. And negative punishment is you remove something to decrease the behavior.
I have a question.
Yes.
Back to ODD, because this is something new to me as well. So what if you have a child that has a bad behavior and is reactive to your punishment, for example? That's what ODD is to be reactive to the punishment. So they say sorry. And then maybe a month later, they do double the act, double worse. They say sorry. Another month later, they do triple the act, and they say sorry. How do you stop this cycle, is my question. Because it's not working. Every time you do a punishment, they say sorry, but they're not sorry. They're not getting the consequence.
But what's your punishment? What are you doing? Are they saying sorry because they don't want the punishment? So saying sorry a way to get out of the punishment?
The punishment is taking things away. The punishment is timeout. The punishment is any kind of consequence that's available. It could be even a spanking, whatever it is. But the constant sorry and then doubling it. Sorry and then doubling it. How do you stop that cycle is my question. Because there's kids who are in that cycle.
I think most of all is, again, you want to send a love message. Is your behavior has nothing to do with my love towards you, which I'm sure you're doing, right? I love you no matter what. I just don't want you to do this. I would explain to him why as well. Sometimes if you give them reasons why their behavior is a problem and where it can lead them to, that can help. And sometimes if it gets really out of control, you might have to take this outside of the class. If there's a child that's very, very disruptive, I think there may be a meeting with the parents and the priest and maybe discussing a strategy to help those behaviors, if one way is not working, can also be implemented at that point. Of course, the encouragement, and not false encouragement. You want to give them true encouragement. Yeah, you want to show them that I love you, I'm supporting you, I want you to do good, and I'm gonna do everything I need to do to help you, but it's up to you. Of course you can be. Yes. Yeah. Of course.
I also wanted to add to what you were saying, like I get back to a lot of kids that have these issues.
Yes.
So I always think what's causing that behavior, why are they doing this?
That's hard to figure out sometimes.
Yeah.
It's so hard to figure out.
Like is it for attention? Is it a sensory issue? Is it a behavior issue? Is it what's something, is there something lacking, something that's missing? Is it something that they're learning? Is it like sensory input? Is it happening in a specific environment? Are they overstimulated? Are they understimulated? Are they bored? Are they challenged?
And that's why we talked about the risk factors, like the parent life, the inconsistency and discipline. So we want to make sure everyone's on the same page, because if you're doing it this way and someone else is doing it the other way, and this is not happening at home, then there's a problem. And they're unlikely that they're going to improve. So that's where we need to get everybody on the same page to make sure there's inconsistency. And maybe if there's parental problems or there's problems in the house, that also needs to be dealt with. And the family needs to know that the child's not going to improve unless that gets improved. So.
And then sometimes you seek professional help, therapy for therapies, ABA, RBTs, BCBAs, OTs, speech therapists, there's, psychologists, just neurologists, there's so much out there that you can seek more professional guidance. Sometimes parents aren't sure, or teachers aren't sure.
And I think we need to put a lot of emphasis on parenting classes as well. I think the church needs to focus on that as well, because this is, again, if we're doing everything right, but it's not being done at home, there's inconsistency and problems. So we need to encourage someone to speak on these parenting issues so that we're all on the same page.
What's the mean in a positive punishment? What we can add?
What we can do is we can take a 5-minute break, and then I can answer your question, then we can restart. How about that? Okay, let's do that.
Guys, excuse me, wait. I want to emphasize that we do have breaks built into the schedule. So if we can just keep quiet while he's giving us the talk, and just because other people are talking doesn't mean everyone else can talk, right? We have breaks built into the schedule, right? So, and we're due for a break in like 5 to 10 minutes. So if we can hold on.
Yes, he already said.
Yeah, I know, but in the future we have 2 more talks, right? So we want to like try to be respectful and stay silent while we talk. Thank you.